Dude, I just made this from freaking plastic, bro. Mates, you see this device behind me? It turns plastic into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. Made over half a gallon of plastic diesel. Diesel I made from plastic waste. This is my plastic to fuel reactor. Now I've recently gotten my unique design patent pending, and I am in extravagant mental health. What's up? I just finished running my plastic to fuel reactor behind me here. Let's see some of the fuel I got out, yeah? Look at that. That's from plastic. This is diesel I made from plastic waste. I am here and I have brought with me plastic diesel. This here is plastic diesel. Scientifically proven to be cleaner than pump diesel. Turn some plastic into fuel. There we are! Yeah. There you are! Not even a summer! Look at the jar! The jar is empty! They did not see any forever chemicals. They did not see any microplastics. They did not see any carcinogenic compounds that are environmental hazards in this. If the government didn't have their eyes on me before, they certainly have their eyes on me now. I just had my plastiline, gasoline made from 100% plastic right here, analyzed, and the guy who ran the sample, you know what he said? His words, not mine. He said, I ran it, and this thing right here has no business being a fuel additive. This is so clean. This is a fuel alternative. So we did a GC, a gas chromatograph from the range of C1 to C5 for the plastiline. So in short, it was not a full spectrum test. It didn't give us the octane, unfortunately, but it did show us the compounds, the general compounds, and we can compare that to C1 to C5 of gasoline. Now, the compound range of C1 to C5 in the plastiline is cleaner, is better composed than that of gasoline from the pump. And that's fact. We have the paper, the sheet here to show it. You see ethane, methane in there, isobutane, pentane, isopentane. The ethane and methane being dissolved in here actually give it a high octane. Now, I don't know what the octane number is. They weren't able to get it with this test. However, we know from the engine tests I've done, this has left a little bit of a white chalk on like the end of the exhaust tips of the vehicles we put it in. And that is a sign indicative of a high octane. We still got to figure out what the octane is, but from anecdotal evidence, this has a higher octane than 87, almost guaranteed. This did not show the emissions if this were to burn. However, it did show the general compounds, and like I said, the general compounds of this are very clean. So we got to do the full spectrum test. That did not include the octane, for example, as well as every compound after the C6 range. Now, when you're doing gasoline, the C1 to C5 range is the most important because unlike diesel, you want the shorter hydrocarbons to be the cleanest. We saw this was composed of a lot of ethane, methane, isobutane, isopentane, pentane, and butane. All of those are clean burning hydrocarbons that are also not overly carcinogenic in any way. What we're going to do next is a general emissions test of the plastiline and the plastadiesel. See if we can pass a standard emissions test out the exhaust of a vehicle, and then we're going to get the plastiline and the plastadiesel going through the absolute certification range, all the tests that they have. But so far, just like the plastadiesel, plastiline is looking great. So we're doing it, guys, changing the world. I'm able to make fuels that if they're not, look, at the least end, these fuels I make are just as good as what you get from the pump. But on the other end, they're better, right? Well, we already saw the diesel is better. But is the plastiline better? We're going to see soon.
Shalom. All praise is honor and glory unto the Most High, Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Hashem, Raka, Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the Great Millstone, and salutations to all you sincere care. And this is your brother Abawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahawashai, Ba'asham Raka Kwadash. All praises and glory is due. And from the beginning, you already know what this video is going to be about. So, this is the book of Jeremiah 10, verse 16. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Yahweh of hosts is his name. And this is, of course, speaking of, hey, Jake is the greatest inventor and innovator on the earth, because a lot of your inventions and a lot of your modern day creations were actually built by Israelites. But then you have Esau, Edom taking the credit, which leads us to this right here, okay? Julian Brown. And this is an article from the Hindustan Times, right? Who is Julian Brown? And to just give it to you straight, that's the individual you saw in the beginning of this video, the video that was going into his alternative fuel that he created from plastics, right? So the guy that you saw in the video that was talking about how he had managed to create a alternative fuel source, right, from basically melting plastic. So that's what he's talking about in his video. And what happened with that was that for a little while, right, he went missing, right? But now an update has come out allegedly that from his mother that he has actually either he has been found or that he was not missing but just kept a low profile. So people thought that he went missing because he stopped posting online, because he does have his own TikTok channel where he basically goes over the processes involved in converting plastic into fuel, right, into diesel. And even recently he started doing another one where he turned it into natural gas. So he started going over the processes that were involved in that. And because he stopped posting as consistently as he used to, people believed he was missing, but then it turns out that he wasn't actually missing. And this is just to show you, right, the greatness of our people, which is you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the scattered Israelites that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Which is why when we go into the past and when we bring out all these different Jake inventors like Louis Latimer, right, like George Washington Carver, right, the Israelite woman that did the GPS, the Israelite woman that did the home security system, the Israelite man that invented the traffic lights, right, and the one that invented the cutting jeans, and so on and so forth. All these different inventions. So like, for example, right, the guy that did the video game cartridge, I've forgotten his name, the Jake that did the video game cartridge, right, that basically was a huge part of creating the modern gaming system. And let's see if I can find his name, because Jake is a gamer. And let's get that. Yeah, Jerry Lawson. That's what I'm thinking about. So I'm going to just type in his name. Or Jerry Lawson, right? And this is him right here. Okay, let me get it. Oh yeah, this is it right here. So you see that our people have always been involved, right? Or rather, our people. Jake isn't just great at athletics and sports and all that. Our people, right, the Israelites, once again, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians are also involved in the science and technology and education and math and so on and so forth in this kingdom, right? And I believe that there's also, let me see if I can get this as well, right? The highest paid robotics engineer. And this is it right here. So the highest paid robotics engineer is a guy named Silas Adekunle, right? So you already know that this is actually a Jake, a Yoruba Jake from here from Nigeria. So let me type in his full name, Silas Adekunle. So this is Silas Adekunle, a Nigerian entrepreneur, and he is known as the highest paid robotics engineer. All right. So you see that it's not only just in athletics and in sports that Jake is dominating. You also have Jakes dominating in the fields of science and technology as well. Because as I just read and as we just read, the Israelites, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, the scattered Israelites that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, right? People like Nikola Tesla, which of course I believe that he was a Jake as well, right? You are the Israelites which the Bible speaks of, okay? And like, yeah, basically what I was going to say, that even the jakes that have been that look like the heathen as well, even our people that look like the heathen that were involved in the building up of, or creating of these various technologies. Like a good example would be Nikola Tesla, right? And also, yeah, just yeah, Nikola Tesla, right? Which is one of the few inventors that aren't Jake that I 100% believe is a Jake. Okay, and you also had this Jake, right? Of course I'm going to use the term black because that's the only term that Esau's system understands. That just had this Jake that was also in creating and flying devices before the Wright brothers did. So let's get that. And this is just to show you, right, that amen. Because you see all the you see all these Jakes like LeBron, see all these Jakes like Mbappe and them, performing all these feats of athleticism, and you think that, oh, the black, this them so not the black, but that's the slip of the tongue, the so-called black man, which really is the Israelites, okay, because you don't really see Hamites doing all of these things that we're talking about, right? Where are the Hamites, okay, that are doing this? It's mainly Jakes, and it's mainly, West Africans, right? So-called West Africans, right? So-called African Americans, so-called Latinos, because, when it comes to football, right? It's the when it comes to football and even baseball, it's the Northern Kingdom that really dominates those sports. Okay, and of course the so-called Native American Indians as well that are dominating in these fields of sports, and not just the regular sports but even combat sports as well. And a lot of these Russians, like I'm trying to remember the name of this guy, Khabib, right? Kamaru Usman and guys like that, that are into the MMA. A lot of them could be Jakes as well, man. But that guys like Israel Adesanya, Francis and Ghana, those guys are Jakes, right? Are like in this combat sports, right? Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Mayweather, right? Deontay Wilder, so on and so forth, right? All these different sports that you always see Jakes dominating in, but you also have Jakes that also dominate in the field of science and technology as well, right? And the science, technology, engineering, and math, which is STEM, right? Charles Frederick Page, this is the AI overview. Charles Frederick Page, a black inventor, patented an airship in 1906, which was before the Wright brothers' famous 1903 flight at Kitty Hawk. Page's airship was a double balloon design, and he received his patent months before the Wright brothers received theirs. He was a formerly enslaved person who taught himself to read, write, and became known for his entrepreneurial spirit, right? So you already had Jakes that were trying to create flying machines even before the Wright brothers did with their own airplane, right? So now let's go back to this article and to go into this a little bit. So who is Julian Brown? Because basically what happened is that this guy, right, created, not only did he create an alternative fuel source, right, by the use of burning plastics, but then he started broadcasting it online and talking about how he's going to, and you saw the videos, man. He's talking about how he's going to improve the technology, how he's going to create an alternate fuel source, and how he doesn't care whether big oil or so on goes after him. Because usually when you hear about these type of inventors or people that invent something that could basically what's what I'm looking for, right, shake up the status quo or create an alternative source, right, to what Esau is doing. They usually see all these comments talking about how, oh, he better protect himself, he better defend himself, right? That's, keep him safe at all costs and things like that, because the belief is already there that basically Esau does not like competition, especially competition as a result of you Israelites, right? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. So Esau, Edom is going to come after you, and ultimately you turn up missing, right? Which is why you see that a lot of these inventors or these inventions that people usually come out with always just disappears or turns up, without any progress or anything being done to it. Like for example, the dude that invented this wireless television, or all these people that have been inventing different ways to filter water, clean water from the air, right? And usually what happens in those type of situations is either the technology is never talked about again, or somebody comes out and says that, oh well, the technology wasn't properly, wasn't done properly, and so on and so forth, and it's not really that effective, so they are shelving it, right? And that's usually what happens. You never see them try to improve on the technology like Esau always does with every other form of technology that he has, right? Esau has been refining the MOTB technology for decades now. Esau has been refining AI, right, to the point where it goes, where to the point where this AI art has, AI art and also the AI itself has started to get better and better. Esau has been refining his drone technology to the point where it's now even a tool for war, right? But then you have this technology that can create electricity out of thin air, wireless electricity, can create water from the moisture in the atmosphere, can create fuel from plastic, which is, which of course, as you know, right, the plastics are one of the major polluters on the earth. So, so that you have a method that is effective at recycling plastic, that's can actually be effective at recycling plastic, and yet you see this devil not wanting to refine the technology to the point where it is at least usable. Why? Because he is the devil, which the Bible speaks of. All right, so yeah, this is the thing that's crazy right there, man. So you have this is how you know Esau is the devil, right? So Esau is ready to improve on any other technology that fits his NWO, the Great Reset, and so on and so forth. But the technology to actually save the earth, right? To actually preserve the earth, he will not choose to work on that, right? But rather go after and start working on all kinds of you know tech that doesn't even benefit or doesn't even help anybody. That's how the WF will come out and talk about how you people out here in the world have to start eating bugs, right? In order to protect the earth because the pollution is getting too much. But they won't put, Esau with CERN will try to open all these portals and use all these particle colliders. And recently, even they've started doing research on what Esau is actually doing with CERN. So basically, what this devil is trying to do is he's trying to get, a proton, right? Let me just ensure what I'm talking about, right? I forgot what they call it, what they call what they call that particle accelerator, I believe. Yeah, the hadron collider. This is it right here. Okay, now so let me just type in a particle accelerator, not hadron collider, particle accelerator. So yeah, so this is right here. A particle accelerator is a machine that uses electromagnetic fields to propel charged particles like electrons and protons to very high speeds and energies. These accelerated particles can then be used in various applications, including fundamental research in physics, medicine, and industrial processes. Right, so this is basically what a particle accelerator is. They're trying to accelerate, which is basically the smallest particle that Esau Edom can at least can at least control, which is your electrons and your protons, subatomic particles like that, and trying to push them or speed them up to at least as fast as possible, which is basically they're trying to speed them up to as close as they can to the speed of light, right? Because according to Esau's physics, right, that basically any particle that has mass, because light particles don't have mass, since they are not even since that they are not actual matter, they're more like waves and anything, but they're more like waves. But yeah, light particles don't have mass, so any particle, right, or anything that has mass that is moving at the speed of light must have infinite energy. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, this is the purpose. Fundamental research. Accelerators are used to study the fundamental laws of nature by colliding particles at high energies and observing the resulting debris. The research helps scientists understand the building blocks of matter and the forces that govern the universe. Right. So this is what Esau Edom is doing with the wealth and money that they have. Basically, doing particle acceleration experiments and colliding particles together at high speeds, right? Which is basically what they are doing over there at CERN, which is all for the sake of, and this is what we're talking about. We talk about when they say, oh, they're trying to create portals, right, in CERN, because basically Esau is trying to figure out, the secrets of the Most High, however, Hashem Yahweh's creation, right? Rather than allocating all this money that is going into the research that they're doing at CERN or the WEF, allocating different funds, right, to go into actual research to actually help the environment. Esau is telling your ass that you need to start cutting back on meat because meat is polluting the earth, right? Esau is telling your ass that you need to start cutting back on meat because meat is polluting the earth. Esau is telling your ass that you need to start learning how to, you getting used to not owning anything because your ownership is polluting the earth. And that's what Esau is doing out here, man. To the point where you have farmers actively killing their livestock and destroying their crops, basically because, first and foremost, they won't be able to get their government subsidies if they keep those crops around. That's why your egg prices are. That's part of the reason why your egg prices are always going up, man. So it shows you. So you see with these things that happen, right? So you see with these things that I just mentioned that Esau Edom is not invested nor interested in actually preserving the earth, but rather, what these devils are only interested in is continuing their, to fuel their greed and also to push their NWO great reset on the earth. So now, let's just read a little bit of this article. Who is Julian Brown? Missing Metro Atlanta inventor went viral for his unique solution to turn waste into fuel. And I will say this again, right, that he has already been actually that his mother had already, updated the news that he has been found, or that rather that he was never missing, but rather just keeping a low profile, right? Because, you know, what he's doing is basically a slap in the face of, Esau, Edom, and their greed and wickedness. So his life is on the line, in danger. All right, but let's keep going into this. Julian Brown, a young Metro Atlanta inventor who previously made headlines for his unique solution to turn waste into fuel, has been missing for 2 weeks. A young Metro Atlanta inventor who previously made headlines for a unique solution to turn waste into fuel has been missing for 2 weeks. According to social media posts, Julian Brown, in his 20s, recently went viral for its invention, Plastocene, which converts old plastics into usable fuels like gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. Right, he was also doing natural gas as well, and really what he's doing is not really converting plastic into fuel, but he's converting plastic into a fuel alternative. Okay, right? So I believe the actual technology is hydro I've forgotten the actual name of the technology, because it's not, what he's doing isn't actually new, right? It's a microwave pyrolysis reactor. Let me get that. A microwave pyrolysis reactor. Here it is. Here it is. So what he's doing isn't actually a new technology, but it's something that has something that already exists, right? So a microwave pyrolysis reactor. That's strange. There's no AI overview. Isn't this the Google? Hold on, isn't this the Chrome? Oh yeah, okay, here it is. A microwave pyrolysis reactor is a system that uses microwave radiation to thermally decompose materials such as biomass or plastic or waste plastics into valuable products like fuels and chemicals. This method offers advantages like energy efficiency and controllable heating, making it a promising technology for waste management and resource recovery. This video shows how to build a microwave pyrolysis reactor using a pressure cooker, and clearly you see that, and this is still the same individual as well. So that's the technology that he's using, a microwave a microwave pyrolysis reactor, so it's a technology that has existed for a while now, but Jake has basically improved on the technology and made the fuel that comes out of it actually, not only usable for for car engines, right, or diesel engines or petroleum engines, right? But he's also continuously improving the technology, right? Which is why he's making a big deal, because not only is he actually doing this, he's now keeping records, right, and having documentation in the form of the online TikToks that he's doing about the technology, and showing people that, oh, this is what's going on, and this is how this technology operates, and this is how I turn plastic, right, into not only crude oil, right, but then into these various fossil fuels as well, right? So at the end of the article, no major outlets have reported on or confirmed Brown's alleged disappearance. However, netizens believe he may have been targeted for his invention, as he shared a few concerning social media posts before going missing. His final post read, "Something is happening. Keep me in your prayers, please. Screen record this. I don't know it." And yeah, so you have a lot of people that believe that he's ultimately going to be targeted because of the technology, which of course is typical, right? Because whenever you have this type of information that comes out that threatens ESO's system, you always see the person that brings out the information, which is whether it's your Boeing whistleblowers, or the guy that was a whistleblower against ChatGPT, Open AI, right? Or guys like Gary Webb that basically exposed the CIA for being involved in the crack epidemic that happened to Jake in the 1970s, or guys like Julian Assange, right? I forget the other guy's name. One, I think Julian Assange, Edward Snowden. Yes, I think Edward Snowden is the WikiLeaks guy, and Julian Assange is of course hold on. I don't want to bring out any false information out here, because how these videos are. Esau will hit you with that misinformation, right? Julian Assange. So I think this is him right here. Yeah, WikiLeaks. So Julian Assange is WikiLeaks, okay? Edward Snowden. And I think either Julian Assange or Edward Snowden was pardoned recently, or possibly even both. Okay, so he was an NSA guy, and he basically leaked the private information. So that's basically, guys, so you have these individuals that usually leak information, that, right, that usually leaks information on Esau Edom's agenda. They usually ultimately get caught and put to death. And it's the same with people that create inventions that compete with Esau Edom's current systems that he has set up, okay, or his corporations that he has set up. That's the reason why you see all these major corporations like Meta, Facebook, right, Google, and so on and so forth, always buying up their competition, right? Because either you can sell to them, okay, or you can be or you ultimately your company, right, will be destroyed, man, because that's basically how that works. Okay, you can either get obtained, right, and get obtained, and they settle it for um a certain amount, okay, or the company ultimately gets or made to be obsolete, right? Because that's when these devils now start pulling, using the pull that they have in the government to try to put sanctions on you. That's basically what happened with TikTok, right? Esau tried to force the TikTok CEO to sell his company, right, to I believe it was either Facebook or so, okay, or he will not be allowed to use the TikTok in the US, or TikTok will be banned in the US, okay. So they'll be putting them sanctions on you, and this is how Esau Edom works, man. So the threat to his life is very, very real, is what I'm trying to say, okay. So yeah, man, let me just end the video right here. So with that, once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto the Most High, Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, Hashem, Raka, Kodash, Wa Abad, Babal, and through this praise, I hope you are calm and you are quite well edified, and also understand that, hey, Jake is not only good for sports, but also our people are also, dominating in fields of technology as well. So with that, I'll end the video right there. Shalom.